How's everyone doing? Today I have 12 pickups right here to review for you guys. All kinds of goodness right here, Blu-rays and DVDs. And as always, if you've seen any of these, definitely let me know what you think of them. And first up from Mill Creek Home Entertainment is a double pack of Hostel and Hostel Part 2, both written and directed by Eli Roth. And these kind of started the whole torture porn genre, along with the Saw movies. Both these movies, when I first saw them, I saw them both when they first came out, and I wasn't a huge fan of them, but they've definitely both grown on me a lot, and I rewatched them both just recently when I got this, and they're both a lot better than I remember them being. And I am never going to a Slovakian hostel ever. That can't be great for tourism right there. But apparently Eli Roth got the concept from this from going online and seeing, apparently real stories about these kind of hostels and things like that. Who knows if that's real or not, if those sites were just making that up. But that's crazy to think that, that was the inspiration. And it's just really shows the darker side of humanity in here. It's gritty, it's dirty, it's raw. And again, it's one that definitely has grown on me, both of them. Hostel 1 and 2, 3 not so much. And one thing I do appreciate about the Hostel movies is Eli Roth really appreciates horror history. In the first one, he had a cameo from Takashi Miike. In the second one, he had a cameo from Ruggero Deodato. And again, he knows what sells. He has the great gore effects and tension and suspense, and then hot chicks all throughout, both of them, especially in Hostel Part 2 right here. Bijou Phillips, Lauren German, both beautiful, and actually all the different girls all throughout are very attractive. And basically it's about a hunting club that gets local backpackers and stuff in Europe and basically tortures and kills them essentially. And the first one has Jay Hernandez in it, who's a great actor. He should be in way more movies in my opinion. And then in the second one, it has Lauren German, Bijou Phillips, lots of beautiful women essentially, and Jay Hernandez is in that one for a little bit. And what happens to him is actually really crazy. That introductory scene was actually a really awesome scene. You see the cat in there as well. But the main part for the Hostel Part 2 is the scene with the lady with the sickle, and she has a lady above her tied up essentially, and she's laying down kind of like in a bathtub, and she's cutting her with a sickle and basically taking a bath in her blood. That scene is a horror classic scene in my opinion. The movie itself is just alright in my opinion, not as good as the first one. The first one had a lot of good suspense and tension to it, and definitely some craziness to it. And the third one, not a huge fan of the third one. These two are both decent watches though. And again, that one scene from Hostel Part 2, that scene alone is worth the price of admission in my opinion. And again, Mill Creek does a lot of these budget titles, and this one is a great deal. You can get it for a very good price, and if you're a fan of the movies, definitely worth checking out and picking up on Blu-ray. Double feature right there. I'll go ahead and show you. They're both on one disc. And the picture and audio quality are both decent as well. It's a nice release from Mill Creek Home Entertainment. Next up from BBC is The Frozen Planet, and this is actually really cool. I like the lenticular cover as well. I love the lenticular covers when they do that. Very nice slip cover. And I'll just go ahead and show you the back as well. And it says includes over 90 minutes not seen on television, and all kinds of bonus features as well. And it's a 3-disc complete series right here. And I really love this. First of all, I love anything having to do with snow and the Arctic and things like that. And I love how they showed all the different animals. I like the one part where they're showing the killer whales, how they basically, kill these seals. These seals are stuck on little icebergs, and the killer whales kind of intricately break the iceberg apart underneath. They kind of knock the seal off, and how they essentially kill the seal. It's kind of sad, but at the same time shows how smart these killer whales are. It's interesting to find out more information about all these animals as well and how they live in their natural habitat. I just love all the different aspects of all the different animals that they show, and how different parts of these frozen places that have been frozen for millions of years, essentially they're just melting away now. And the sad polar bears, they're losing a lot of their places where they have to get across. Essentially, the icebergs are melting away. And I also like for the bonus features, they show how they film these the shots as well, which is really cool. Especially the killer whales, how close they got to them as well. And a lot of these things are kind of dangerous what they do, and they're risking it. And they're going to these underground caverns, and shows the helicopters and stuff like that. Really cool bonus features in here as well. And of course, this is the UK series narrated by David Attenborough right there, and tons of special features on here. And I'll go ahead and show you what the inside looks like, same as the front and back. And I'll just show you the disc artwork. Disc 1, nice swing tray. Disc 2 and Disc 3. and it looks beautiful. It's honestly stunning on Blu-ray, absolutely stunning. And again, like I said, I love all these kinds of ones, especially set in snowy settings and things like that. And for me, breathtaking. Loved it. Next up from Mill Creek Home Entertainment are two different National Park exploration series right here. First up is the Great Smoky Mountains, Crown Jewel of the Appalachians. And then next up is Yellowstone, the world's first national park. And both of these ones are pretty simple and straightforward. They basically show all the different beauty that is these national parks, and has narration over it as well. Kind of goes over the history of it, just talks about the beauty of it. And these are actually, they're beautiful to look at, and that's the big thing. It kind of reminds me of something you'd see on like, the Discovery Channel or National Geographic. And I think these would be great to show in schools as well, because again, it's beautiful to look at, stunning, how great these national parks are, and it provides information on them as well, like FDR making this the first national park, and just different things like that. And again, they look great. Some of the helicopter shots in the beginning are kind of shaky at first, but they definitely settle down, and beautiful. Both of them absolutely beautiful. And next up from A&E and New Video Home Entertainment is the New York Mets 50 Greatest Players, and this actually blew me away. This is way better than I was expecting. I thought it was just going to be really quick things. It starts out, it's 50 great players. The first bunch of players they go through kind of quickly, like Kingman. They say, oh, he either hits a home run or he strikes out, and it goes like that, just kind of quick. Frank Viola, he's a great pitcher, really nice guy. But then when it goes down to the lower numbers, they talk more in depth about them. I actually thought Gary Carter, the kid right there, he was ranked number 10 greatest Met of all time. I think he should have been a much higher, technically lower on the list. For me, I always loved him growing up, and it's sad that he passed away. May he rest in peace. But I always thought he would be higher up on the list than I don't know, he's great. I mean, you see Doc Gooden here. Of course, Tom Seaver, number 1. But so many great Mets players. They actually have Chris Rock on here talking about the players. They have different people talking, different baseball players as well. But to see Chris Rock on here was really cool as well. To see him, talking about how he watched the games and stuff like that, went to the games. And this was actually really good. If you're a fan of the Mets or just baseball in general, I think this is one that would be great to pick up right here. And again, it has special features, the origin of the Mets, and they have some of the games too. 1969 World Series Game 5, 1986 World Series Game 7, 1999 Wild Card Playoff, 2006 Mets clinched the NL East Division. Now all these are the 9th innings only. They're not complete games, which they should have said on the back here, but still, those were awesome to see, even the 9th innings, especially the 1969 World Series Game 5. After they won, the crowds just piled onto the field to see all those people out in the field like that. Incredible, especially for the 69 World Series. Awesome. And if you're a baseball fan, a fan of especially the history of baseball, you will really appreciate this. I was actually really blown away by this one. And next up for A&E Home Entertainment and New Video is Major League Baseball's production presents Fenway Park 100 Years as the Heart of Red Sox Nation. Now this is actually very cool as well. It basically talks about the 100 years from 1912 to 2012 of Fenway Park, and talks about the different owners, especially in the early years where they had fires. In the early 1910s and 1920s, how great they were, and how they had Babe Ruth, who was a left-handed pitcher, one of the greatest left-handed pitchers at that time, and how they basically traded him away to the Yankees, and how they had the curse of the great Bambino, essentially, and they had the fires that went on in the early years, and all the renovations they did, and Ted Williams, and all the different players throughout, and how they changed different parts of the ballpark that really helped benefit Ted Williams, and it was actually really interesting. Now, Red Sox, love them or hate them, this is actually a great release, and again, very informative. And if you're a fan of baseball history, again, another one I think you'll really appreciate. It also includes the 100th anniversary pregame ceremony with a bunch of Red Sox players and legends. And I like the introductory part too, where they had like this whole song essentially, and they showed different clips with different players, and they mentioned different players in the song. I thought it was actually really cool. How it goes all the way back from Ted Williams to the now Millar, and it was actually really interesting. And again, if you're a fan of baseball history, both of these ones are worth checking out. Not even if you're a fan of the teams. I mean, if you're a fan of the teams, you'll love these releases, but if you're a fan of baseball in general, I think you'll really appreciate them. And next up from Plexifilm is Drive Well, Sleep Carefully, On the Road with Death Cab for Cutie. Now, in the early 2000s, Death Cab for Cutie was one of those bands that was just everywhere, especially college radio. Very well-known independent rock band. Indie rock scene was huge with Death Cab for Cutie. And this actually was really cool to see. It basically follows them around in 2004. The spring of 2004 when they're going on tour. And basically this is just a mixture of live footage and then just them talking casually about how difficult it is to go on the road, and their hometown. They're from Seattle, and this just really brought me back. And it has a bunch of cool extras as well. Acoustic set at the Metron, San Francisco, stability and rehearsal, a demo montage, behind the scenes footage, a bunch of different interviews, and it just really brings me back. And Death Cab for Cutie, I still love them. Again, if you're a fan of Death Cab for Cutie or a fan of indie rock, definitely one to check out. Really cool how it mixes basically, them going on the road and talking, and then the actual live footage as well, the different concerts. There's the disc, and it has a nice booklet in here as well. Go ahead and show you that, and some interior artwork. And here's an advertisement for more flexi film releases right there with indie rock bands. Saddle Creek, which I definitely want to check them out. I love Bright Eyes. A bunch of different ones on there as well, but here you go. Kind of a fold out little booklet right here. Some pictures and the band right there, and talks about going on tour and the features, and notes from director Justin Mitchell, so that's very cool as well. And this really took me back when I was watching this and listening to the live footage, especially the songs. It really brings me back to the early 2000s. Love those times, and those songs were great. And next up from Inception Home Media is Vile. This is a horror movie. Again, this would probably fall under the torture porn genre that are kind of popularized with Hostel and the Saw movies. I think the concept for this was just really ridiculous in my opinion. Basically, these people were all kidnapped, and they have to torture each other to essentially produce this kind of chemical that people want to turn into a perfume, essentially, or cologne. And because the fragrance is just supposed to be really intoxicating, and they have these things that are connected into their brains, essentially, and they won't disconnect until there's a certain amount that's filled up. And basically everybody has to torture each other and to get that all filled up, and it's just basically an excuse to show torture scenes. And I will say though, it's definitely unsettling to watch. It's definitely kind of makes you cringe a little bit, and the effects and the gore are pretty decent in here. Definitely some tense scenes in here, tense moments, and people kind of going back and forth, and basically there's different instigators and people that are trying to not get as much hurt, because people get their legs drilled and just bashed and cut and all kinds of things. But I will say the ending really disappointed me. I thought the ending was way predictable and just kind of a letdown, and I wanted a little bit more from that ending. I know people might think it's a fitting ending, especially the people that made this movie, but to me it's so formulaic and predictable, because you've seen all these types of ones, you know how it goes. And overall though, I thought the concept of the film was just kind of hokey. It basically was an excuse to come up with ways to torture people, essentially. And the concept was a letdown. You only watch this movie for the torture scenes, essentially. And again, it was some good kind of graphic gore scenes that really worked for it. And next up is Mysteria right here from Green Apple Home Entertainment. And basically it's about a writer right here who's kind of washed up. He was a Hollywood screenwriter, and he has to come up with a screenplay that his deadline's way past due, and he's living in a seedy hotel, and he's basically an alcoholic, and he spent all the money that was given him that was fronted, and he actually owes them money now. And he's writing the script. He basically doesn't have anything ready yet, and he's way behind on the deadline. It stars Danny Glover as well, and Billy Zane, and Robert Miano, who plays the lead right there. He kind of reminds me of Dennis Hopper, and while I was watching this I kept thinking, wow, Dennis Hopper should have been in this. It feels like it was made for Dennis Hopper, and he kind of looks like Dennis Hopper as well, and kind of how gruff he is with some of the scenes, the dialogue. May Dennis Hopper, may he rest in peace, but I just kept thinking it the whole time. And it's a good supporting cast in here, but the one actress in here, that girl right there, horrendous acting. Horrendous. Everybody else was doing a great job supporting it acting-wise. The police officers, the detectives, and just her. Oh, awful, awful. Her name was Lavina in the film, and Meadow Williams is her name. Horrible actress. And you also have Martin Landau and Michael Rucker in here as well. There's Billy Zane, Danny Glover. So you have a great supporting cast. And again, Robert Miano, I really liked him as the lead. He's been in tons and tons of stuff, but he deserves to be leads in movies, in my opinion. I thought he did a great job in here. And basically it's about, this down-and-out writer, screenwriter, and he has to, get this screenplay written by the deadline, which is already past due, so he's on a tight thing, but he gets involved in a murder case, and he's the prime suspect, and it has a lot to do with what he's writing as well, but basically what he's writing is coming true, and he has to figure out what's really happening. Is he crazy? Is he dreaming this? Is he the killer? What's going on? And the ending is one of those, endings that, it just kind of, it's one of those ones we've seen so many times before, and it kind of personally disappoints me, that ending. It kind of feels like a cop-out. We've seen that ending so many times. I was hoping for something a little bit new or fresh from it. It definitely feels like a film noir. It has that classic feel to it, kind of like a murder mystery thing going on. And again, the cast was great except for her, and the supporting cast, awesome. Michael Rucker, kind of a, rough kind of detective right there. And I always love seeing Danny Glover in movies. And again, overall, it was a decent movie, but not great. It's definitely worth a one-time watch if you're into film noir, murder mystery kind of movies. Has that classic feel, sea hotel screenwriters working with, just they're drinking whiskey constantly, and trying to figure out who the murderer is and how he's connected. So, but again, the ending, we've seen that so many times before. It just felt like a cop-out in my opinion. And next up from Entertainment One is Crazy Sexy Dirty, Bill Bellamy stand-up right here. And I actually thought this was really good. I've never seen his stand-up before, but I've seen him do all kinds of different TV shows and things like that. And I always found him to be, it seemed like he was naturally funny, and I always found him to be entertaining. And this was actually really good, especially the one part where he was talking about meeting this girl online in a chat room. I thought that was hilarious. And this was really entertaining, much better than I was expecting. And if you enjoy stand-up comedy, this is definitely one I'd say check out. And next up is Cat Williams' Catapocalypse, also from Entertainment One. Now this one, I was kind of disappointed in. I'm not a big Cat Williams fan at all. To me, these kinds of comedies are just really the lowest common denominator for comedy, really cheap humor, basically just playing up racial stereotypes, and every other word was the N-word in here. I mean, he couldn't say a sentence without saying the N-word or some kind of curse word, and it's just too much for me. It just gets old quick, and it's just not. If that's what you're relying on, just shock value, you don't have too much to offer. But one thing I will say about this is, he puts full out effort into his comedy stand-up routines, because he's moving around, he's running around, he's sliding on the floor, he's in a sweat, he's putting all his energy into that. So I definitely appreciate that aspect to it. And there were a couple funny parts in here, especially he's doing all the bomber impressions and things like that. But overall, I just wish he wouldn't use the N-word every other word, the curse words so much. It just kind of really brought it down. And a lot of, again, it's just basically really cheap humor. We're just really playing up racial stereotypes, and it just gets old so fast. I feel like if that's what you're just relying on, that's all you have to offer, there's just not much wide appeal for me, in my opinion. But I know he's got a great fan following. And I mean, if you're a fan of Cat Williams, I think you'll really appreciate this, because it's the same type of humor. And this is basically, it was on New Year's Eve, and he's basically ringing in the new year. And that's actually kind of a cool concept as well. I think he just came out of retirement for that show as well. And his hair as well, kind of self-deprecating humor. He kind of cracks on himself, saying that he looks like the mayor of Whoville with that haircut. And I definitely agree with that. He was talking about all his different arrests and stuff. And I mean, again, if you're a fan of Cat Williams, I think you'll really enjoy it. But for casual stand-up comedy fans, you might want to check out the trailer first, or check out some Cat Williams videos on YouTube, and to see if it's your kind of humor. And next up from Vivendi Home Entertainment is the Garfield Show Holiday Extravaganza right here. And this is all CG animation right here. There was a bunch of different Garfield cartoons before in the 90s. This one is CG animated, and right here you have all the different episodes. The Haunted House, Witch, Turkey Trouble, Caroline Capers, Home for the Holidays Part 1 and 2, and the bonus episode Air Apartment right there. And they're basically all holiday episodes right here. There's one when they're a haunted house, and they're trying to figure out what the ghost is. Kind of reminds me of a Scooby-Doo episode, actually. I will say this is more geared towards kids, I feel like. If you have kids, they'll probably appreciate it more, especially seeing that there's a lot of CG animated TV shows out there. For me, I like the classic animation. I'm not a huge fan of the CG animated shows, but it's decently entertaining. I think, like I said before, kids will appreciate it a lot more. If you're an adult looking for the classic Garfield, you're probably not going to get it there, but still a good release from Vivendi Home Entertainment with a bunch of episodes on there. And again, it has the bonus episode as well. And for a younger generation, it'll bring them to Garfield. And I always love when they do holiday episodes for any kind of TV show like that, so that's always a lot of fun. And if you've seen any of these, definitely let me know what you think, and then leave me a comment or video response down below. Hope everyone's doing well. Take care.